Hello and welcome to VHS Era. We go from one iconic franchise to another, this time a way different one, as we make a pact not to lose our virginity, but to watch not just the 2000 VHS to American Pie, the 2000 unrated VHS of American Pie. I am joined by Freddie Fisher of Bracket Bastards. Thank you for coming on, Freddie.
Glad to be here. Actually, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Definitely a top 10. The movie itself, I know we're talking about the previews and stuff, but the movie is where it's at.
Yeah, and actually we did a an episode on your podcast about it. Now I know you have a few podcasts, so could you tell the audience what the name was?
Well, we have a couple of them. I'm representing Bracket Bastards today, which is the main show that we do. Bracket Bastards is a show where we take a tournament of 32, 64, 120, 28 or more and banter our way down to a winner.
Mhm.
Panel about either 5 or 7 people. Each person gets a vote. Whatever item on the list happens to get the most votes moves on. For instance, today live on YouTube at 2 o'clock Central, we're doing a Star Wars special. So, for instance, uh, how about Rogue One versus Solo? And for all you Star Wars aficionados out there, would choose one of those, and whoever gets the most votes moves on to the next round to face whoever wins the on the one above it or below it, so on and so forth. It's a simple March Madness style thing. Um, we have, and the other one we have is called the recasting call, which is where American Pie comes in, because we just did a couple months ago for the back to school session a recasting of the 1999 high school classic of American Pie, where we took uh, today's actors and replaced them with like the top 5 roles of that particular movie. Unfortunately, I do not have the list with me on who we decided to choose, so I can't reveal that. But you're more than welcome to go ahead and check it out. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so two things. I do remember at least some of the recastings we had. I remember I want to say Kat Dennings we agreed to on Stifler's mom.
Yep.
Um, I want to say it was Finn Wolfhard we said should be Jim. Um,
I honestly I can't remember. We're doing the next one we're doing is Happy Gilmore, so I try to focus on the next show as much as possible. So and we just got done doing Titanic for the month of April. So
yeah, well, you know what? You can listen to who we ended up picking on the link below. And it's also funny that, I just went from doing Star Wars to American Pie, and now you're doing American Pie to Star Wars
mhm.
later today as of this recording. Um, but with that being said, when American Pie had first come out, did you buy the rated R VHS or the unrated VHS, or did you buy the VHS at all?
I didn't get the VHS. I got it on DVD because it was around the time where it was going to DVDs. It was one of the first DVDs that I actually did buy, which the quality was a lot better. I do remember waiting for this movie to come out because I saw the previews on previous movies, because I used to actually go to the movies a lot back then. In '99, when it came out, I was like 13 at that point. So it was right around my age range, if not a little bit too risque for what I was supposed to be watching. But what it
So,
is.
yeah, so I'm guessing neither of your parents took you.
No, no, I had a neighbor friend of mine that his parents were super cool, and by super cool I mean they were pretty much latchkey kids type things, where the parents realized long before it's like they're gonna have to make their own mistakes and let stuff like that just kind of happen. And we had a good time, and it didn't like it didn't affect me in any kind of way where I had to like I ended up in jail or anything. So there's that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. So actually, just out of curiosity, was that your first like R-rated movie that you saw in theaters, or what was like the first R-rated movie that you saw in theaters?
I don't know because we didn't uh I didn't go to watch a lot of R-rated movies to even start with because they didn't really fit the billing that I actually wanted to go see. But I could have seen R-rated movies in the past that my parents wanted to go see and didn't want to pay for a babysitter, and I just wasn't really interested in it. And now I don't know what was R-rated and what wasn't back then because I stopped caring because all the movies kind of blend together. I'm just as much of a fan of Land Before Time as I am as like Jurassic Park. So
Yeah,
rating,
yeah, sorry. But I was just asking because, like when you're a kid, like the first R-rated movie you see tends to be like a big deal. Well, to many kids, not all kids, of course. I think the first R-rated movie I saw in theaters was I want to say Wedding Crashers. Um, but that's in theaters. And let's go back to a simpler time, to VHS. As we look at the trailers for American Pie, not the R-rated cut, but the unrated cut.
The new album from Tonic, Sugar, featuring the hit single You Wanted More. Plus the new hit single Knock Down Walls. Sugar, new from Tonic, in stores now on Universal Records.
So, to begin with, we have a CD commercial from some like band. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever even heard of them, or if I did. I forgot because I'll be honest, I was a little kid, I think, at the height of their popularity, if they were ever that popular. Have you ever heard of this band?
I've never heard of Tonic, but I can tell you right now that the actual soundtrack to American Pie, which I know that we're not talking about, but the actual soundtrack is fantastic. It's short of the movie Twilight for me, like the soundtrack to Twilight, but a lot of the artists on there were just absolutely fantastic, and I would recommend that particular one. Tonic is they seemed back then, and they still seem a little bit more of a no-name band for me.
Yeah, like I whoever their I don't know if it was okay, whoever the recording company. I, you know what, I'll be honest, I don't know if it was their manager, their recording company, or whoever, but whoever was able to get a deal to have their soundtrack promoted on the American Pie VHS, they, especially since as they're not really that big of a band, um whoever was able to get that ad, especially seeing it's just kind of a nothing ad you just kind of see in between commercials, good for them. Though I think actually they were on the soundtrack of American Pie, and I think that might actually be the next clip, the next commercial.
American Pie, the soundtrack to the smash film. Featuring the hit single from Tonic, You Wanted More. 13 tracks featuring Third Eye Blind, Blink-182, Sugar Ray, Dishwalla, Shades Apart, and more. Get the smash soundtrack from American Pie on Universal Records.
I was right. They were on the soundtrack, and of course, right after watching the commercial for their CD, they just play the same song over the American Pie soundtrack promo, which honestly feels a little repetitive.
Hmm.
Um, like again, you were saying, that American Pie has a great soundtrack. Why not just play anything else besides their song over the soundtrack promo? I mean, A, it would make it feel less repetitive, and B, it's like it's not that big of a band, especially when you got like the other bands like Blink 182 on the soundtrack. Why not play their song on the soundtrack promo, or or what I would think is what people would call the American Pie song, if there is a song that comes to mind for American Pie. Maybe it's just me, but I would think it was like the song that they play over the montage near the end of them all having sex. That's what I kind of think is like the American Pie song. But what do you think of this promo?
I would, to be perfectly honest, I would have, because both ads are about 30 seconds long. I would have taken out the first ad completely. That's just focused on them, and just had a minute long ad for the actual album itself. That would allow you to focus on a little bit more of the music during the movie, so you could recognize it. Still have toxic
Tonic.
at Tonic. Sorry, ugh, I got Britney Spears on my mind. Um,
It's fine.
Tonic,
Yeah.
Tonic as a headliner, because if you label them as a headliner and give a little bit more emphasis to them, but you have bands in there like Blink 182, you're pretty much putting them over Blink 182, putting them on a upper echelon scale by mentioning them first. Like having Blink 182 as an opener for your show would just be like, hey, I'm in God mode right now type thing, but still have the full minute ad for the album, which allows people to hear snippets of different songs that you're going to hear during the movie, to create a little bit more of a, like, hey, I remember this song. So, which would bring you back mentally to the ad, to the album, which would create sales. But to focus on them both twice, I think it's very redundant.
Yes, agree. It's redundant, and again, it's like it's not even that popular a band, so the way it's done, to quote another uh popular teen movie, it's like they're trying to make them fetch.
I used that. I used that line during the podcast last week. It was like, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. This time it's like, stop trying to make Tonic happen. It's not gonna happen. With all due respect to any of the band members of Tonic, if they're watching this, they probably aren't.
Target audience right there, Tonic. That's
This summer, the Nutty Professor is back.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. You look just like Billy D. Billy D, Billy D, Billy D.
Feel the warmth.
Get your butt out that chair.
If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say nothing at all.
That right.
Share the love.
This must be your lucky night. Oh! Oh!
Eddie Murphy, Nutty Professor 2, The Klumps.
Oh, I feel so vulnerable.
Oh!
That's a movie I know I've rented at Blockbuster and don't remember anything about. I've heard many people say that they consider it a very disappointing sequel.
Mhm.
Again, I think I think I was 12. I'm kind of indifferent to it, but yeah, that doesn't make it look funny at all. It
It does. The only good factor in the entire thing is it shows Eddie Murphy's brilliance as a comedian, because he's playing off of himself. Eddie Murphy played all those main roles, just in different forms, and he puts himself into like Mike Myers, not Michael Myers, different things because Mike Myers played himself different roles of himself in the Austin Powers series and stuff like that. So if you have a person who can play himself in different forms and react off of himself, him being the old woman and him being the main character himself, it's just absolutely genius. So you got to give him props for that one. But I watched 15 minutes of that movie and I turned it off.
Yeah. You know what, you make a good point, which is that it this ad showcases Murphy's versatility well, but the jokes in that ad just aren't funny. It just makes it just makes the movie come off more obnoxious than funny. Admittedly, I don't think it exactly helps that other comedies have made fun of this style of comedy, like, the Fatties with Tropic Thunder, and Tracy Jordan has like a similar like franchise to the Klumps and 30 Rock. I forget the name, but I remember there was like an episode where he did like a Klumps-esque Christmas movie, and he was trying to get it not even seen so he could be taken seriously as a dramatic actor. But even if other comedies have kind of trained me to think of this type of comedy as lame, even if they didn't exist, I don't think I'd look at this trailer and say, this looks funny, I want to see that.
I mean, I didn't. It's one of those things that you watch it out of morbid curiosity than anything else. Not something you want to see. You're like, how bad could this dumpster fire get?
Yeah.
It's like watching a train wreck or some kind of car accident. You know the jokes are going to be there, and you're going to go, but you're going to worry that you're laughing at the wrong parts too. So I don't know. I would not recommend the movie to be perfectly honest, but that's me.
Yeah. And this is like the second time now, I think, I had a movie starring Eddie Murphy that was critically panned, that that I featured on the show. First time, the Haunted Mansion trailer was before Roger Rabbit, and now this time the Nutty Professor 2 trailer is before American Pie. And these episodes did not come out that far apart from each other, so that's an odd coinkydink. So that's kind of a bland title card. Just coming soon from Universal Studios Home Video. Guess at least they put in the effort to put in some colors. I don't know. I think Disney has spoiled us on how to do these title cards. All the other studios just don't really try that hard.
I mean, they're so much better now. Lionsgate still has one of my favorite ones right now, with starting with the entire Saw franchise, how they started going through the clockworks and stuff like that, and eventually it started panning outward, like backing up. So then you see the Lionsgate type logo there. It's one of my favorite ones. Disney hasn't changed anything, but their graphic has gotten better from their entire Disney logo. And there's other ones too, but I still think Lionsgate's my favorite out of all of them.
Quite frankly, what we've come up with is, since you are able to regurgitate, on command, it just seems to me that it's pretty logical that you should be puke.
It's all supposed to be fun.
The Rock is the most electrifying man in sports entertainment today.
It's not supposed to be real.
You're not gonna be scared, right?
It's gonna be okay.
You can go Back to the Future, you can do anything. Right?
But behind the scenes, it's a whole different story.
Everyone feels like they got their money's worth out there.
And for the first time ever, you'll know the real truth.
He's gonna puke! He's gonna puke! He's gonna puke! It is showtime!
The hard facts.
Really worried about him as far as his health.
You need a new knee now.
She's gonna live here the rest of her life probably, and have 7 kids and 7 husbands, and she'll always remember tonight, man.
The family pain.
You make it sound like you don't even want to live.
There's times I know. There's a lot of times I know.
The real danger.
Shut up! I'm a very violent person, and I'll hurt you. So I get paid to do what I'm doing. That's like with any entertainer.
Come face to face with a wrestling world the way it's never been seen before.
Gave up Wall Street for Wall Street wasn't fun. Wrestling is fun.
It's still hard after all these years.
I just don't want to hurt no more.
This is the dance!
Beyond the mat.
I think we touched a lot of people, if you don't mind me saying.
Okay, so first decent trailer of the bunch. I hope you're not offended with me saying this, but personally, I find wrestling a little boring, but I am a fan of kind of like behind the curtain stories, what really is going on behind the scenes, like not just not just like what is dazzling and entertaining, but like the trials and tribulations of getting there. Like watching that, I am kind of invested, and I kind of want to see what I kind of want to see more of this documentary, see more of what these wrestlers go through to get to entertain the crowd, to entertain the fans. And like, yeah, I would be down for watching that documentary.
I've seen this multiple times actually. I've been a wrestling fan since '93. I'm still a wrestling fan. Backlash was yesterday. The latest pay-per-view for WWE was yesterday. There's this movie is definitely dated a lot, to the point because they can't do this anymore. WWE is a publicly traded company, or at least it was up until this year, because TKO, the brand TKO was formed from WWE and UFC type thing. So it's a private company, but they still have to worry about sponsors and stuff like this. Before you're aware of the entire Chris Benoit story, right? At all?
Vaguely, but could you maybe tell more about
Chris
it?
Benoit was a Canadian wrestler, great wrestler at his job, and I give him props for that. However, he did this move called the diving headbutt, where he would quite literally jump off the top rope and run his head into your shoulder while you're relying on the mat. This was before a lot of people knew about the entire CTE type stuff, and when he died, rather prematurely, he died with, from what they said, the brain of a 90-year-old man. Another really sad part of this story, he not only died, but he killed himself. He not only killed himself, but he also killed his wife and his kid as well. So there's a reason why they don't do a lot of the moves that they've done in the past. They don't do there's a scene in that particular one where Mick Foley, who was one all bleeding, busted, and everything else, saying that, well, at least we gave him a good show type thing. He was facing The Rock. That was at one of the Royal Rumbles, and it was one of the most barbaric televised type thing, because there's matches out there now that are not really televised, or just for fans, stuff like that. But they don't do open headshots like that anymore. If you notice, if for people who watch wrestling, they're their hands are always blocking the chair's not exactly hitting type things. All the stuff that you have out there, with the exception of Legos, are gimmicked. The hardest thing I've done wrestling in the past. The hardest thing you're ever going to get hit by in a wrestling match is, believe it or not, a kendo stick, because the tables are gimmicked to the point that they're pretty much sawed in half on the bottom of it. So when you hit it, it splits evenly, because if you hit a table when it's not sawed like that, it could shatter into pieces, and you're going to get multiple splinters like that. So it's a violent type thing, but all that stuff has changed since then. It's a good look back. It really is, and it will always be a good look back. But if you're not into wrestling and you kind of want to get a basic feel of it now, WWE has a lot of really, really, really good documentaries out there. If you want to get into the darker side of the ring to it, there's Vice out there has a entire series called The Dark Side of the Ring that will give you a whole bunch of different stories from the past and stuff like that. Because a lot of this entire kayfabe stuff that they had in the past before Vince McMahon came out and said that all this stuff is predetermined. I didn't use the word fake, because you get slammed to a mat, it's still going to hurt. So it's not fake. They just do it. It's a predetermined match. Vince McMahon came out and told the Maryland or Massachusetts or one of those board of sports commissions that this is not a sport, it's an act. So he wouldn't have to pay taxes, a certain amount of tax, because it's not a sporting event, it's a sports entertainment event, which is where that entire thing came from. But I would check that out. On the good side of wrestling, I would check out the documentary Becoming Immortal, which is the Bray Wyatt story. It's absolutely great. You can find it on Peacock. Not a sponsor, could be. And if you want to go on the darker side of the wrestling, I would check out. There's a channel out there called Vice. I think it used to be Spike, but not for certain on that one. And they have a show called Dark Side of the Ring that gives you a little bit more of this feel, but in a modern type viewing. That also has a lot better interviews from previous wrestlers and even current wrestlers, talking about what the real story is and everything else, since the statute of limitations on some of the stuff that was done is passed, so they can actually start telling their stuff. There's a whole bunch of podcast interviews too out there about what this type of stuff actually is. So I would get both sides of it if you want to get into that. I personally think wrestling is a beautiful thing to do, to watch. Granted, I've been watching for 30 years, so it's kind of a one-sided argument for me.
What's your name again?
Chrissy.
Where are we going?
Swimming.
Wait! I'm coming! I'm coming! I'm definitely coming! Hold up! What? I can swim! Just can't walk.
Okay, so I've seen a lot of like re-release VHS trailers on here, and most of them are just remember the time when this happened, and when this happened, and when this happened. It's like it feels like they're aimed less towards a general audience and more towards just people who've seen the movie. And I guess what they're going and thinking is like these are popular, iconic movies. So most people who are watching this probably have seen it. This is kind of the first one that just feels like it just treats the movie like it is just a movie, like it is sort of catering to literally anyone, like it's just showcasing, the iconic opening scene, and it's giving you, and it's like bringing attention, like, oh, what is this movie Jaws like what could happen? Isn't this this could be an exciting thriller, not just being like, remember this scene in Jaws and this scene in Jaws and this scene in Jaws. And I kind of like that, even though it's like, this big trailer for Jaws is re-release, like they're not acting like anyone who's seen it has definitely seen Jaws. I feel that kind of makes it unique and more interesting than most of these like re-release trailers I've seen. Oh, what are your thoughts on this preview?
I I'm gonna kind of copy yours for a second on this one. I agree. Like I don't. It's more for the people who have already seen it. They just kind of wanted an updated version of it. Unfortunately, there's no updated versions on on that one. It's going. I don't know what the original format that it came out on, because I think that movie came out in the 70s. So I think VHS came out later than that. So I don't know what format they had it on, but it would have been originally released on VHS for the first home movie viewing, but nothing has changed as far as the graphics on it. Like you don't have a better quality. So with this being 1999 when American Pie came out, DVDs came out shortly after that. So, or even during this. So I would have actually waited 5 years to whatever the next, like, I think this is like the 20th anniversary or whatever it was, but I would have waited for the next anniversary, which would have been the next like 5 year type thing. And then you could have put in with all that space on the DVD, you could have remastered it. So it was sharper, it was clearer. You could actually see what's going on. You could see a lot of the details. Also, with DVDs, you could have a lot of the backstory and different documentary type deals with that, talking about Bruce the shark and how you didn't see Bruce very often because Bruce kept failing. So there's a whole bunch more of that movie that was supposed to be shot, but there's 3 different sharks and they all just kept failing because ironically enough they weren't made for the water because they're all electronic, and for some reason they couldn't figure it out, so they only got certain shots on it. And different things about saying how this movie affected people and how people were super scared of sharks for 5 years after the movie Jaws came out. Beachgoers, like the amount of people going to beaches plummeted so much that there was surveys about it. They couldn't figure out why people didn't want to go to the beach anymore, and certain beaches actually lost funding to help the beaches stay clean and stuff like that because there wasn't enough people actually enjoying the beach because of this movie and movies kind of like it. So you could have given so much more information during that preview, saying it's like, hey, you get the old movie, even if it's not digitally remastered by this point, because I don't know if they have the technology in '99, but get the movie, and then you get all this bonus features as well, even on VHS, because I know a lot of VHSs back in the day also had extra content. Like even bloopers or stuff like that if they had the room. So I don't know why they would just re-release the old movie for a new plays or a new audience if the movie was already released, unless this is a movie that was only released in theaters and never released on VHS. Now we have the entire VHS ability that you can watch it at home to actually watch it at home. But I'm pretty sure it was released on VHS or some other form before that. So this ad or even re-releasing the movie actually makes no sense.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that. And I will say, let us just go to the next preview.
In the far reaches of the galaxy, a civilization is under siege.
We are all that is left.
They've searched the universe for a leader.
Stay tuned for scenes from next week's Galaxy Quest.
Never give up, never surrender.
He will save us.
What they got.
Never give up and never surrender.
Were struggling TV actors.
You are our last hope.
Where's my limo?
Okie dokie.
And they're about to put on a command performance 8 million light years away.
We are actors, not astronauts.
You are our protectors.
That was a hell of a thing.
Now,
Laredo, take us out.
You gotta move to the right.
Would you sit down? You wanna drive this thing?
acting like heroes.
The whole thing was just a misunderstanding.
May not be enough.
They look like little children. Hi, little guy.
Oh, darn.
DreamWorks Pictures presents Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, Galaxy Quest.
You're just gonna have to kill it.
Well, go for the mouth, the throat, his vulnerable spots.
It's a rock. It doesn't have any vulnerable spots.
So that was the preview for Galaxy Quest. Doesn't really get into like how sort of like this preview. I do remember like this preview playing a lot on TV when the movie first came out, or like at least like previews similar to it. Like I remember like that, oh, those look like little children's scene playing on like all the commercials, as well as I think the vulnerable spots one. Again, this ad just makes it look more like a silly fish out of water comedy, which if you see the actual Galaxy Quest movie, it's more than that. It still kind of looks like a fun movie, though, just from the ad, even if, again, it kind of just makes it seem more generic than it really is. But then again, on the other hand, that's kind of normal for trailers, especially Hollywood trailers, just, you know, focus on what looks the most marketable. Like, have you ever seen Galaxy Quest? What are your thoughts on that ad?
I've never seen Galaxy Quest. I want to. The only problem is that I've been looking for the last week where I can find this, and I don't have it. I don't have a physical copy of it, which I'm actually kind of surprised on it. I was looking for it on all the apps that I have. The only app that has it right now is Showtime, and I unfortunately don't have Showtime. Closest thing I have to it would be HBO Max, but that's what that is. So I'm gonna have to look it up. However, I do want to see this movie because it has Tim Allen in it, and Sigourney Weaver, and Alan Rickman, and Tony Shalhoub. That's 4 people that, with the exception of Sigourney Weaver, that are like comedic geniuses. Alan Rickman is the best at just dry, satiric humor type thing, where he can say a very funny line, but say it so somber and so dry that you laugh more at yourself than you're laughing at the joke, because you get it a little bit more of a deeper sense to it. Tim Allen is, of course, he's been a stand-up comedian for years. Tony Shalhoub, best known for Monk. That's kind of what his comedic goes with. Sigourney Weaver, though, is known for, I believe, Alien franchise. And so she fits the Space Warrior role, but other than that, looking at the ad, it'd be a good watch for one time, but I don't see any real value in rewatchability, to be perfectly honest. But if I can find it, I'm definitely planning on actually watching it.
Yeah. So yeah, again, like this is a fairly fun just trailer for, a fairly fun movie. Again, it's nothing too special. I guess I will just say, like, even if you haven't ever seen the movie, is it me, or have you at least seen do you at least vaguely kind of remember a couple of those like scenes playing on like ads, in between like commercials and stuff?
I remember the rock scene where he's
Yeah.
running away from the rock, but that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even remember where I seen that. So
that's fair. Okay. And now, we will go to the closing credits. So what's interesting is, you wouldn't really think American Pie would necessarily be the kind of movie someone would stop and think like, oh, I want to see how they made that. But I guess Universal disagreed because they put a behind the scenes feature after the movie, and we are going to see it now.
Hey, Kevin. Seen Shipwreck lately? Why? What did you do to him? Me? Nothing.
To me, the film is an honest portrayal of what high school was like.
Okay, so like I said with Beyond the Mat, I'm always kind of a sucker for like behind the scenes things. So yeah, I mostly enjoyed that. I liked how they sort of got into like how they were able to relate to their characters.
It's about adolescence, which it predominantly revolves around sex. Don't you remember high school? I know for myself, I was a walking hormone.
I will say that in the part where they're talking about how the directors were like treating them, like I'm sure the Whites are very nice guys, very good directors. That's sort of a part where I'm thinking though, like, to what extent was it? Only because with these things, the downside is you got to sell the movie, so you can't really go too. So sometimes you gotta exaggerate like how much you liked it, or like how good things were on set. Unless it actually breaks out that things on like film sets went terribly.
At first, I was very curious to see how it was going to work. I've never worked with two directors before. I was curious and at the same time excited and at the same time a little skeptical. Any skepticism that I might have had has been completely erased.
They work so well together, and because they're brothers and they're so close that it just adds to the mix.
I wouldn't have known they were first-time directors. Well, maybe I would because they're so polite.
I tend to love first-time directors. They're really patient and really willing to work with the actor, and they take the time out, and they are so calm.
Besides that, I guess the only other, I will say, like, I thought it was kind of funny how they were like, recounting their experiences of being in high school. I think in Thomas Ian Nichols' case, like he was like the closest to being a teenager, to being like the same age as his character. So he's like, I just went to prom and now I'm on prom. I'm at prom again.
This is like my third prom this year. I went to prom with a girlfriend, took a friend's friend, to prom, and then I come here and film another one.
I guess if there's a few nitpicks, like Eddie K. Thomas is like the same age as him, yet seemed like he was talking about prom like it was long ago.
I never got to go to my senior prom, so for me it was my prom.
I don't know if maybe they told him to say that because, you know, he has a sex scene with a much older woman, so they didn't want to get in trouble with the law. And Jason Biggs, when he said, like, did seem like he was acting like this was the first R-rated movie set in high school.
It's time for a teen movie to come out that does not hold back on things and does not, you know, try to depict this picture of teenage life as, you know, as being rated G, which it's not.
Which is not true at all. I mean, Porky's, hello. Although I will say, at the time, it felt more like teen movies were on the PG-13 side. You had Clueless, and that same year, She's All That, and 10 Things I Hate About You, so it wasn't really a new concept, but it had been a while since there was an R-rated high school movie, a movie set at a high school that was R-rated, like at least with a big studio backing behind it. But, you know, at the end of the day, I enjoy just watching them recant their stories of high school and how much they enjoyed making this movie. And that's my thoughts. What are yours?
I'm a fan of stuff like this too because it gives you a little bit more of a idea of not only the characters, but it gives you the idea of the people who are actually portraying them and how much fun they had on the set. I'm a true believer that if you can portray fun, if you're trying to do a fun project and you're portraying the fun, the people who are listening or watching or enjoying your products are going to feel it too. And if you're not feeling it and you're trying to be fake about it, they're going to know that you're being fake about it. It's just a certain type thing. So I'm glad the directors in that was having the kids on there actually have fun on set too, because it made a comedy, which did have some serious scenes too and stuff like that, but it made a comedy much of a comedy because they're having a blast doing it. So
yeah, and like, you know, you were saying like how you know how it's cool how truthful they were, like, you know, when Natasha said in an interview, she was like, you know, I've never actually been to my high school prom. I don't know what it's like.
I don't really remember high school that well, nor did I attend that often. But I assume that for many people, this was what high school really seemed like.
It's like, well, thank you for being truthful about that. Not, you know, saying, yeah, I've been to my high school prom. It was great. That's my shitty attempt at a Natasha Lyonne voice. But yeah, that was really interesting. And you know, and now of course the last thing that is on the American Pie VHS.
Marker. And the pie would be about his stomach?
At his crotch.
It would be directly below his eye line?
Yep, right at his crotch.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Yeah.
He's holding it over his unit. Here we go.
I can explain. Is that the right dialogue?
For take two, Mark.
This one time at band camp, I was supposed to go to this party, but it wasn't really a party, and I was the only one there.
Marker. The cheerleader, baby. She wants me. She asked me for my number. I asked myself the question, what's the difference if it's 100 girls or one, as long as the stiffmeister can come through and give them all a little bit of piece of the pie? Yeah, baby! Look at these nipples. Are they hard? Yeah.
This one time at band camp, there was this guy there. He was from Jersey, and he smelled so bad. It's like you.
Hey! You done? I can't do that.
Marker.
Hold on. Oh, thank you. That feels so much better. Yes.
This one time at band camp, there was this horse who had the biggest saddle.
Marker.
MILF, yeah, MILF.
Marker. Stick your head up to your left a little bit. Yeah, like that. Gianna.
Oh, it's not what it looks like.
So that is the very end of the American Pie VHS. And I'll be honest, whenever they put like most of the times when they put like bloopers over the end credits, like it tends to feel annoying and fake. It's like, okay, we're okay, like just end the movie already. I actually, you mentioned Britney Spears earlier, like Crossroads is a good example of that. That's one example of a movie that where like tacking on bloopers was just more obnoxious. But I think but I think also like the difference between putting the bloopers in the movie as opposed to like at the end after the movie is already happened is like, when you put it in the movie, even if it's over the end credits, it's like, how do I say this? Like, it feels more edited. It feels more edited, manipulated to look, just manipulated to look like, oh, look, isn't this fun? Didn't they all have a fun time? Don't you see that? But when you're just doing it like after the movie like this, and it's not like being edited to fit the song over the end credits, like you see more of like what the actors and crew are actually thinking, and it feels more genuine in a way. So which in turn makes it more enjoyable to watch.
I'm a fan of bloopers and stuff like that. We actually do the same thing on our show. On Bastards, at the very end of the show, after the disclaimer, we have stuff in the show that didn't get they're not bloopers per se, but they're stuff that happened during the show that just didn't either fit the show, or it was done during times where the show wasn't exactly going on, like somebody had to leave the room, so we had to pause the show, but something really funny happened, and or just add a little bit more of context to it. So I appreciate that from like an editor's point of view as well. And with looking at stars in general, like the entire Hollywood elite, I love watching bloopers just for the simple fact that you put people on such a pedestal that they can't really do anything wrong. So when you see them doing something wrong and being okay with it, like just having a blooper where they said the wrong word, and especially when they don't realize they said the wrong word, and then everybody else is just like staring at them and wait for them to fix it, and they go through life realizing then they just made a mistake, and they laugh it off, which is really good because a lot of people don't know how to do that. They make a small mistake and then they dwell on it, and then when they dwell on it, the amount of time they take dwelling on it affects the other stuff that they're doing, which means they make more mistakes and more mistakes. It's the entire quicksand effect. So seeing people who are supposed to be perfect in the eyes of a lot of people because they're celebrities doing imperfect things is absolutely great, and I appreciate that. So
yeah. Now it's the time for stay through the previews, or in this case, stay through the previews and then stay after the credits, or skip to the feature and then turn off the VHS once the credits are over. But I will say that the first 3 previews are weak. But then it gets better. And what we see after the closing credits is fun. So mildly stay through the previews and stay at I'd say mild. I'd give a mild recommendation to stay through the previews. Just fast forward through the first 3 ones, but definitely stay after the credits.
I think it depends what you're doing. If you're watching it because you want to have a good time, I would just watch the entire thing. Watch the credits too, because a lot of people work on this movie and work very hard on the movie too. So even getting their name popped up there for like 10 seconds as it scrolls up, a lot of the older movies or a lot of the newer movies it's up just there for about 10 seconds and then disappears. That may be the only 10 seconds that they're actually recognized for the movie period. So I would do that out of respect. However, if you're watching it to watch it just because you want to either you're going on a podcast like this where you have to discuss it, or you're going on to you're doing it because you actually want to watch the movie, I would skip both of them. Because if you're into bloopers and stuff like that and you know it's going to be there, like it says stay after feature presentation for extra content or so on and so forth, then yeah, go ahead and do that. If that's something you want to do. But I would just watch the movie. I would skip both of them, both the beginning and the end of it. And just deal with it. And the movie itself, I think, is like an hour and a half to 2 hours long anyway. So you're spending a decent amount of time just actually watching the movie.
Okay. Well, besides Bracket Bastards, and we'll have the link to that below, and recasting, is there anything else you want to plug?
Not really, because we have currently, as far as Bracket Bastards go, we're doing the next couple of weeks. We have a Star Wars bracket starting today because it's I told one of our fellow bastards that we would never do a Star Wars bracket because I cannot stand Star Wars. I've never have liked Star Wars in any bit of it. So I told him that we'd only do Star Wars if we could add some other stuff to it too, that is Star Wars adjacent. Like, for instance, Blue Harvest, which is the Family Guy version of it, and the Robot Chicken version of it. Spaceballs is going to be on the list too, because Spaceballs is like the best Star Wars movie out there, period. You can quote me on that one. We have next week, you might have fun with this one. We are talking about 32 different names for boobs for Mother's Day. And it's an all-female cast, so we're doing that one as well. Well, and then after that, we're talking about post 2000 video games for all you video game people out there as well. So,
all right. Well, we did Star Wars. My last episode was on Star Wars. The episode before that was on Roger Rabbit, which is definitely Stifler's favorite Disney movie, if only for Jessica Rabbit. And it's actually, but next time we are covering Jim's favorite Disney movie. That's right, we are covering...
Hey, did you see The Little Mermaid on TV the other night? No? Ariel, man, she's so hot.
We'll see you then.